Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 355. Folks, it looks like the FBI has a meeting planned with the survivors' lawyers for this week. And I guess they're going to be giving the survivors and their lawyers an update on where they are in the case. Now, who knows what that's going to entail? I'm sure it's going to be as thorough as possible. I'm guessing that there are some things that they're not going to be able to share because of security for the case, meaning they want to make sure that they get those prosecutions. So maybe there isn't a whole lot they can share. Maybe there is. I don't really know, to be honest with you, but I think this is pretty significant. The fact that the prosecutors are meeting with the lawyers really, to me, spells out doom for the co-conspirators. And when I say the co-conspirators, I mean the core four especially. Now, there's probably going to be some other people that get, swooped up in all of this at some point as well. But I think a really good place to start would be with the core four. Let's get all of them brought in. Let's get them into the system, under oath, speaking with investigators, get them charged, and let's see where the chips fall. We know that there's some super high up people that are involved in this, but I don't think they're going to be able to be prosecuted for the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein was committing. When I say that, I mean the enablers, right? The people on the outer rings. Now, those people who have been directly named by Virginia and others, all of those people, I don't even know why they're not brought in right now as we're sitting here speaking. They should be brought in and they should speak to investigators under oath. Those are serious allegations. That's not just somebody didn't say they saw you run a red light. This is serious stuff. So those people most certainly need to be brought in and spoken to, and if it's found that they did commit the crimes that they're being accused of, they need to go to prison forever. Now, the core four, on the other hand, well, they had direct responsibility for these survivors being abused. They took part in the criminal operation. They were giving orders, they were taking orders, and they were doing everything in between to make sure that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal enterprise ran smoothly and without a hitch. And for decades, they were able to do that seamlessly. They had quite the scam going, didn't they? A pyramid scheme of girls in Palm Beach, little high school girls coming and going. And the people who were setting that up, the ones who were making those meetings occur, well, those are the core. That's the core four. And those gals, they need to be brought in ASAP. And I think that a meeting with the prosecutors and the survivors' lawyers, I think that's some foreshadowing, folks, that it's not going to be too long before we see other arrests in this case. Let's see what the Sun has to say about all of this, shall we? Headline: Epstein bombshell, FBI to release fresh Jeffrey Epstein findings to survivors this week, including new information on the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family. This article was authored by Nicole Dara. Now, that's a pretty loaded headline, right? New information on Prince Andrew? Wait a minute, I thought he was just a witness. Isn't that what they would have us believe, that he's just a witness? He is not a witness. He has never just been a witness. He is an actual target in this case, in my opinion. Now, they'll say he's a witness to get him to come sit down, make him comfortable. Oh, yeah, Andrew, your testimony is really going to help us, proceed in this case. Meanwhile, they're just waiting for him to lie like he's going to, and then, well, they have him for perjury, folks. That's why he doesn't want to sit down with the authorities. That's why he just wants to do a written statement. He wants nothing to do with being cross-examined and being led into some lies. According to the Mirror, the FBI's fresh documents to be sent to Epstein survivors will include information on the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, a.k.a. Prince Andrew. Now again, I don't even, what could that possibly be? They have uncovered new evidence? I don't know, maybe. Again, we're not privy to what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of people like to make pretend they are, but they're not. It's all conjecture, all speculation, besides what's out there for us all to consume. I'm very, very, very skeptical of people that talk about they have inside sources. Very skeptical. All right? Unless they have a proven track record, of course. Then, once you have a proven track record, that's a whole different story, right? But I don't know what the hell kind of new information they could possibly have. They've been doing this investigation for quite some time. They have 1.2 million documents that they've taken off of phones and other electronic devices. What did they find there? Did something slip through the cracks? And is there something that points to the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family? There might be. Who the hell knows, though? The outlet does not specify what kind of information will be given to survivors. So, again, we won't know. Now, the survivors who get this documentation, they're going to know. And if they decide they want to talk about it, well, that's called a quality source, right? That's someone to listen to. So, unless the survivors tell us what's going on here, or we hear from their lawyers, or, we get a statement from the prosecutors, then, all we could do is speculate. But they probably have accrued a massive amount of information when it comes to people involved. All these decades, all of the investigations that have took place prior, you don't think they have access to those files? Of course they do. And those files added on with all of the new things that they have now, I can only imagine the mountain of evidence that they have against these people. Virginia Roberts, an outspoken accuser who claims Epstein and his ex-lover, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag and bipedal serpent, Ghislaine Maxwell pimped her out, has claimed in court documents she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrew, a.k.a. the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, in 2001, when she was 17 years old. He has also been dragged into Maxwell's prosecution and is set to feature heavily in her New York trial next year. Man, heavily, huh? I thought he was just a witness, though. Does that sound like somebody who's being looked at as just a witness, folks? Not to me, it doesn't. Sounds like somebody who is directly in the scope, directly in the sights of the prosecutors, and they're trying to slow walk him in. And eventually they're going to get ham-fisted with him, though, and that's when the threats will start. Buckingham Palace has strenuously denied the allegations made against the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, which have previously been thrown out of court procedurally, not because the allegations were found to be untrue. Let's not try and recreate history here, my dear. A palace spokesperson said any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue. It is emphatically denied that the Duke of York, a.k.a. the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family, had any form of sexual contact or relationship with Virginia Roberts. So, if that's the case, then why is he no longer a working royal? Why have you ostracized him from the royal family? Why wasn't he at the Day of Remembrance? You see, folks, they know the deal. The palace knows the deal. The queen knows the deal. And if this was the old days, this dude would have been sent to the furthest away province, and he would have been left there to rot, or put in the Tower of London or some shit, or he would have eaten some poison. But nowadays, all they can do is just shake their head and not invite them to family dinner, I guess. Any claim to the contrary is false and without foundation. What? There's a bunch of foundation. In fact, there's so much foundation, we could build the city here. There's so much foundation that you could shore up the canals of Venice. The Mirror reported on Wednesday that the arrests of more people in Epstein's circle are expected. Well. You think? Of course there's more that's coming. And that could be what the investigators are talking to the survivors about. They could be laying out the game plan. Now, I don't know for sure what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. But I am pretty confident that the co-conspirators, especially the ones that were named in the NPA, the non-prosecution agreement, all of them are in imminent jeopardy of going to jail. And I think that the prosecutors meeting with the survivors and giving them an update can only point us in that direction at this point. It was reported last month in a trove of newly unsealed documents that, in a 2016 deposition, Maxwell denied connecting Roberts or underage girls with Prince Andrew. Maxwell called Roberts an awful fantasist and asked, according to the court docs, are we tallying all the lies? An awful fantasist. Ghislaine Maxwell calling anyone awful in any context or any capacity is laughable at best. Lady, you cornered the market on awful. Your behavior is awful. Your very presence on this earth is awful. And as soon as you're convicted for these crimes that you committed, in my opinion, well, you're going to be a non-factor. Because these survivors are going to move on with their lives. They're going to get some form of closure while you rot away in prison, eating bologna sandwiches, and wishing you didn't squander all of the privilege that you were afforded. She said she couldn't recall taking Roberts out for a night of clubbing with Prince Andrew in London. No, that never happened. That picture wasn't real. No way. Nobody. Are you kidding me? Complete forgery, mockery, deep state fake, whatever you want to call it. That picture never happened. Are these people for real? Her tissue of lies is extremely hard to pick apart. What is true and what isn't, Maxwell said in the deposition. Talk about projection. The ultimate projection here. Virginia's a liar? Come on now, bipedal serpent with that forked tongue. You've never met a lie you haven't liked. The deposition was part of more than 400 pages of transcripts from the deposition that were ordered by a judge to be released as part of a lawsuit. Many names and several pages in the deposition were blacked out, though information around some names, including the princes, made it obvious who was being referenced. Yeah, and also the index, it might have had something to do with it as well. So even though it was redacted, there was a lot of good work done, and most of the names were pulled in and unredacted, right? So we know that the Joe Exotic of the Windsor family had a very, very, very close friendship with Ghislaine Maxwell. We know that he was always over at Jeffrey Epstein's house, and we know that they were so close that he thought he had to fly across the Atlantic Ocean to go and break up with some dude. Now, mind you, they weren't in some romantic relationship, and if that was the case, I could understand it, right? All right, look, it's your boyfriend, you gotta go break up with him? All right, whatever. No, that had nothing to do with that. This was a friend, an associate. But he had to fly to New York to break up with him and stay at his house for one last hoorah? What were they, building forts? What were they doing? We know what they were doing. Maxwell was arrested in July for her alleged involvement in delivering young girls to Epstein for years. Her arrest came almost a year after Epstein was arrested and then killed himself in prison in mysterious circumstances, allegedly. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to helping Epstein recruit and groom underage girls as young as 14 to engage in illegal sexual acts in the mid-1990s, and not guilty to perjury for having denied involvement in any such scheme when she gave her deposition under oath. Now, we know that those charges are only hold me charges, right? We've discussed that before. I think that we're going to see a lot more coming down the pipe, especially now when they're talking about how other people are about to get arrested here. Now, I think that there's definitely some talk going on behind the scenes right now about other arrests. I've heard some rumblings. But again, nothing rock solid. I don't have an in with the prosecutor's office. I have no idea. All I can tell you is some rumblings from people that I have talked to that have said that there's definitely going to be more arrests in this case. And that just plays right into everything that we have discussed leading up to this point. Now, again, I don't know the time frame. I would think it's going to be very soon, especially considering there's going to be another document dump that I'll be talking about in the morning, but there's going to be another document dump very soon as well. So I think it'll coincide with that. I think the arrests will happen when the document dump comes out, or, not even the document dump, when the evidence has to be provided to the defense from the prosecution. They got that 2-week extension. So when that evidence comes out, I think that we could possibly see some arrests then. And for the Mirror to start reporting on that and for the Sun to pick up on it right away, usually these sort of outlets have been ahead of the curve when it comes to this case. If you go back and you read all of the articles, even back from 2015, 2016, when the legacy media wasn't picking up on it, these outlets were ahead of the curve and they were on top of it. So usually when they talk about some smoke, there's usually some fire. And it definitely would add up, and the timing would be perfect considering what we know and how the deadline is approaching in regards to the prosecution turning over this evidence. One thing is most certainly clear, and that is the Core 4 needed to be arrested yesterday. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links are in the description box. And once again, to everybody who has donated to the podcast, thank you very much. All right, everybody, I'll catch you in the morning.